It's a really crazy feeling when you open up a chapter. It's only 12 pages. It's like, well, doesn't look like we're going to get much this week, but that's not the case. In 12 pages, Tabata has really packed this chapter up. Chapter 208 for Black Clover, and goddamn, this is a crazy one. So, the chapter actually starts out not with anybody really present in the fight. I talked about it in a separate video recently about Goldry and Rebchi, what exactly they're doing, and it looks like they are in fact going about what was kind of like hinted at that they're raiding the Shadow Palace, going for any treasures, magic items, anything they can find in there. And that's going to be a really interesting plot point to see where that goes later, just because of what exactly they find in there. Are they going to take it to one of the other kingdoms and sell it for like a position in them, or how's that going to go? I'm very interested in that. That was just a small bit to kind of start out. And then we get back to Yami and Carla, and you actually see the areas outside of the rooms within the Shadow Palace, because we know that it has this weird shape, and we know that we know that it's apparently it's a connecting point between these two dimensions. And after Licht, destroyed a huge area of it with his Supreme Aeon Slash, you just have like these big like destroyed areas. In between them, it just looks like it's just empty space. Like you get all this like rubble pieces floating around in like this shadowy area. Probably just kind of this like void space. You play a game. It's just like when you exit a boundary of like up an area, and it's just like you're pretty much gonna fall forever until you die. Like kind of like that. That's what it kind of looks like to me. But then, Yami talking about, he got his arm healed up by Carla. You talking about how he might be able to manage one more dimension slash. He's worried because he only can use one, but he knows that his dark magic is effective against demon, which is very curious. And I'm wondering if that has to do with the fact that there's actually a statement in this chapter that isn't. It's such a big piece will not be like the big focus of the chapter, and it was very quietly kind of laid out there, very like without much emphasis on it. And when Yami's talking about, well, if I've got one more slash in me, it needs to be a decisive attack. Maybe he'll be able to help land, like create the opening that Asta will be able to maybe pierce the devil's heart. But he's saying the only other thing other that they have that really is effective is anti magic Asta, present in there. You can feel everything going on. And, obviously Lumiere has mentioned, oh, isn't that one of Lick's swords? We know that they were at least close friends, and I guess still are now because they're both alive in a way. Well, Lick's alive. Lumiere is a different situation. But this is what I'm talking about. Sekri says that after it took in power from Licht becoming a demon and becoming a Fireleaf Clover Grimoire, that the anti-magic lying within a different dimension is connected to that grimoire. So we believe that now we have some hints that anti-magic itself is from this other world where the demon is from. And that's very curious of how exactly that's going to lay out and where it's going to link to the story. I have a theory. One of them is that the demon within Asta's grimoire is maybe like in the demon world, maybe he's kind of shunned because they're still all magic. They just have weird demonic magic. And, anti-magic, maybe he's kind of shunned and looked down upon by other demons. And maybe that's why he liked Asta. Maybe that's why he chose him to use Grimoire. We don't know. But obviously that's now a big piece that we're going to get, like, for the Grimoire and for this demon, is that they are anti-magic from a different dimension. They are connected to this other dimension. Very big, very important. Yet somehow it was like barely mentioned. It was just kind of like silently, like very quietly, like laid out in the chapter. But then Asta, as he's like charged up his sword with extra anti-magic, he's trying to pretty much unlock the power within it, because he just saw some aspects of the true form of the anti-magic sword from seeing Lick to use it to absorb all the magic of the other elves, and then Aeon Slash, and now we have Asta who's trying to, in the way he knows, harness that. He knows how to absorb anti-magic, kind of like pull out the flow of anti-magic going into the sword, turning it into that black state. But because of him kind of do it, we know from the black form that he's pretty much drawn to anti-magic, or the anti-magic is drawn to magic, and they're, and vice versa, almost kind of like magnetics, or like a lightning to a lightning rod, and it's like shooting him at the devil. and he cuts right through one of the forks on the trident on the weird lance, weapon is. And he's talking about how he was able to dissolve the effects of space bending magic and light magic. It wasn't able to work on Asta's grimoire. But this was again what I thought was really interesting last time he talked about it. One of the things I really want in this arc is I want to see Asta's grimoire demon talk to this one. And this kind of like laid out a really interesting bit further of it, because the first time they really conversed, the devil wasn't talking to Asta. He was like talking to the demon in his grimoire. He was saying like, I don't know which what demon you are, but you better take over that kid's body if you don't want to die. So there's seemingly a limited lifespan with the creature of grimoire. Um, maybe that'll be how it kind of goes. If you've seen the theory, because Asta's name, Asta, the demon related powers, and the demon of I think it was one of the sons of the Prince of Hell, Asta Roth. Maybe the demon in the grimoire is called Roth, and maybe they'll have to merge eventually and become Asta Roth. I don't know, but he uses another spell. And now there's, all those weird, like, slug pieces of that monster, like, leeches are, like, turning into, like, they look kind of like Tremors, like, if you see the movie Tremors, or I guess it'd be like the Graboids. Anyway, I don't need to reference that movie if you haven't seen it. Big, weird, kind of like spiky tooth, and they're trying to get Asta. Asta's moving around very quickly, but he's not in control of it. It's the anti-magic sword kind of, like, pulling him around, and Lemire actually comes to help him, and this kind of, like, adds an extra dangerous area of that power that he's unlocked, because when Lemire came to help him, because obviously he's extremely powerful, he's got a lot of magic in his body, the anti-magic sword, which is like supercharged right now with anti-magic, and pulling itself towards magic, like swung back and hit Lemire for being so close, and smacked him against the wall, and seems to have left him unable to use magic for a short amount of time. So if Asta, this is going to add a whole new area for Asta, because not only is this a power hard to control, it's dangerous for people around him. One of the big aspects of his character each arc isn't just Asta getting in the fight, being the bad guy. They've been a lot of team-based big fights throughout the series, and Asta is obviously a key player in it with anti-magic, and that's how all the characters within his group can formulate a way to strategize in order to defeat their enemies. But now, if Asta needs this power for the future, he has to be able to at least perfect it to a point where it's not gonna turn around and hit anybody near him that's his ally, because especially the fact not only is it gonna hurt them, but it's gonna seem render them unable to use magic for a certain amount of time. And then Patri, who's like just viewing, I thought this was really cool just to see Patri in action, because for one, it was cool that he's using both. He can use both the light magic and demon light magic, but he's watching Lemire talking about even though they both have light magic, four-leaf clover grimoires, he actually isn't even close to what Lemire can put out, which is understandable, but it was really cool to see him just kind of be like, wow, this is what I could be capable of if I ever reach this level. This guy's amazing. He uses demon light magic, kind of like shreds up a big area of those creatures from the other dimension. And then once we have that comment about the demon, it's really cool that he's like talking about how he doesn't know the one in Asta's grimoire, he doesn't know how strong it is, but he's saying like he needs to know his place in the hierarchy, because like the devil they're fighting straight up says that he's a superior demon. So I'm extremely curious to see how that goes, see how their conversation, if it ends up happening. Then we have further kind of him just talking, saying like, your power is like a drop in the ocean, though. So you're advancing, you're still not enough to go at me. And that is true, because even with that pushed form that Asta and achieved, they weren't able to catch him. But now they're still breaking their limits, and they're getting there, because now has created a new area for his spirit magic. He's used his wind spirit magic to create a sword. He's pretty much absorbed the magic residue and like bits in the air to kind of like recharge him a little bit. Now he's got this wind spirit magic, Spirit of Zephyr, which is sword, magic wind sword. And Yuno's always been more ranged. I always liked him because you had Asta, who was a straight like front close quarters combat, and Yuno, who is like maneuverability and range. I'm hoping that sword, it's kind of like Uryu's I don't know how to pronounce it. Steely Schneider from Bleach, how it was like it was kind of like a sword, and it kind of has the same effect because it was like it would hit reishi attacks or Ryatsu, however it's pronounced, and then like it would kind of like slowly like break parts off and absorb it, and take it into itself to make it more powerful. And then it turned out it wasn't a sword; it was pretty much an arrow, and it was like this vibrating arrow that that collected energy, and that's kind of what Yuno's is like. So I'm hoping that it's not just a sword, and it's very weirdly shaped. Maybe it doubles as an arrow, or it's gonna be like maybe that blade piece will come off, and you can kind of use it as like a weird ranged weapon. Manipulate the blade with weight. I don't know, but then what really cool because the thing about Black Clover that we keep getting, especially this arc, we've gotten so many this arc, so many sick like parallel spreads of Asta and and we got that here because we got a good part about but we also got a great part about Asta because Asta, he can't use magic. He's still progressing as anti-magic, and now he's using an anti-magic spell. He's using this anti-magic Demon Slayer sword. I thought it was beheading sword. I have to double check Asta's anti-magic sword, but he's using it now. It's the Black Divider. So he's pretty much elongated his sword, made it bigger. He's gone further berserk. He really wants that. He really wants to make Daddy Guts proud, and he's like just made his sword probably 50% bigger, like doubled its mass and just elongated it. And I'm wondering now if he's gonna be able to keep doing that. If he's gonna be able to pretty much use anti-magic to further enhance the size of the blade, and maybe eventually he's just got this like 20-foot giant massive beast of a sword, and it's anti-magic. Oh, it is Demon Slayer. I've been calling it Demon Beheader sword for so long in video playing and Dweller than just. Either way, it's really sick to see because this adds a progression of Asta without him breaking the mold. I got a little bit of the spoilers of the chapter beforehand of him using a spell, and I was wondering, there were kind of three ideas rather, that I was kind of theorizing is. One was like this, where it was he's using anti-magic in pretty much a way of an attack, and it's pretty much a spell to him. In the same way anybody else is using an enhanced ability, their weapons or spells, and it's the same thing. It's the same concept, but instead of a magic fuel, it's anti-magic. I guess it'd be an anti-spell at this point. Or his one-shot, if you've read the one-shot, originally his power wasn't anti-magic, it was pretty much being a spell thief, and he could hit a spell and clad it onto a sword, kind of like what the Demon Dweller sword does, but instead of like shooting it in beams and energy attacks, it'd be like hits a fire spell, bam, he's got a fire sword now. It's a lightning spell, bam, he's got a lightning sword. Or the one that I was very worried about is that if Asta somehow like pulled all the anti-magic out of the grimoire and somehow could use magic. I know that was one theory, because a lot of people are under theories of that, of like, oh, Sekri finds out that he actually had all his magic sealed, and that's the reason he can't use magic. She unlocks it. I don't want that to ever happen. I've seen people like discuss this as theory. I never want that to happen. I don't want that or Asta to be some special like descendant of some rare bloodline or anything that will hurt the whole theme of the series unless handled very specifically. Because the whole thing about him is that he's this nobody that is at where he's at because of a combination of hard work and his rival, pushing him. And that's one of the things I also really like about these sick like parallel spreads that we keep getting with Asta and even the way the layout, because like you look at something like their forms, the anti-magic black form is on Asta's right side, whereas Spirit Dive so far is on Yuno's left side. And even like look at these panels, they're mirrored. They're both like facing their own direction, which is really cool. I just love looking at that Black Divider. It looks so cool, and I'm really interested to see what he can do with it. Like, can he keep making the sword bigger? Like, maybe if it keeps going wider, it keeps going longer, and he's just wielding this behemoth of a sword. We'll see. So there was a lot of really good, like, small, subtle moments in the chapter. Obviously, Goldry and Rebchi. We got Yami and Carla kind of like, the fact that Sekri's like, oh yeah, that anti-magic is from another dimension. It's like, shouldn't this be a thing that we talk about in like a big detail moment? Why is this just, oh yeah, it's just a thing, yeah. It'd be like, just kind of like pulling over real quick, an obvious kind of comparison for me at least, because people frequent my channel know that I'm a Fairy Tail fan. It'd be like if the reveal of Zareth being Natsu's brother, or him being END, would just kind of like in the middle of a random small panel of just like, oh yeah, yeah, you're actually a super demon. You're pretty much made to kill immortals, and I'm your brother. I'm this 400-year-old like living embodiment, radiating death, super magic wizard genius, and like owner of a continent. Don't worry about it. It's kind of like Attack on Titan. If you remember when it was when Reiner and I always say Berthold, however his name's pronounced, revealed that they were the armor and colossal titan, and it was like in the back of a panel, like barely even given any attention. That's what kind of reminds me of, and I think that was kind of funny, and I like that in this chapter because it was just like one thing you'd probably like gloss over, and then you look back and like, wait, I need to look over that again. But really excited to see what exactly Asta does. Like if his swords all have maybe like that'll be a cool thing for to see him develop in the future of how he can use his anti-magic in other ways. Like maybe he could use his deep color sword and shoot out like anti-magic waves, kind of like a black meteor, or no, black hurricane, but more of like concentrated, directed, like aimed. I think that'll be really sick. So I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be awesome. I'm loving watching Austin and keep developing, and especially now because they're showing their stuff in front of the first Magic Emperor, Wizard King, and Licked, which is just great. They're really pushing up their capabilities, and it's gonna be really cool because at the same time it's not seeming like just out of nowhere. Like they've been developing, they've been pushing each other, and you have the support of all these other characters, more characters coming in. We're probably gonna get Marileona, Carla, and Yami jumping in soon. Fuego Leon. There's going to be a bunch of characters hopefully showing up to finish this guy off soon, or at least beating him to the point where he has to retreat and go like into hiding to recover. So tell me in the comment section below what you thought about this, what you thought about the fact that Asta's now got an even bigger sword. He's got a bigger great sword. It's so sick to look at. I love how like the anti-magic is only black in the handle and the hilt, and it's like flowing into that like piece that's connected into the blade, and then like flowing out of it like veins into the sword, and then you just have this pitch black line. It looks a lot like Guts' sword in the way that in the way that the Dragon Slayer is it only has the dark edged, and then have the middle point of the sword just kind of being that like light dark gray, and not obviously it's not the same sword. Actually, no, it's reversed. It's dark gray in the middle, and then like very light and around the edges. My bad. Reverse that. It's super cool though. Super sick. And obviously, it has it's still got the same kind of like hipped shape. So loving seeing that for Asta. Really good stuff. Again, tell me in the comment section below what you thought about all this, and I'd really appreciate it, again, hearing what you have to say. If you thumbs up the video, really appreciate that. But friend the like button and the subscribe button, and check out my other videos. But other than that, I appreciate everyone subscribed, and I thank y'all for listening.